Okay, let's go. It is currently in the PMs, so past midnight, and I just came home from a game that I played, external competition, um, and I really need to look at it before I go to bed because it was a long game and there were so many moments that were interesting stuff, and I'm not even sure if what the result would have been if one of the players didn't blunder in the end, which already is a spoiler that it was not a draw. Um, so yeah, I mean, just figure it out who won, um, who you think won at least. So my opponent played. Quick story. I 2 years ago I was on a roll in this competition with, and I could have been top scorer, the highest scorer of the entire competition, going into the last game, where I prepped against some player. I didn't play against them, but I did just play against that same player, so that's interesting. Yeah, I lost that game 2 years ago, but this time, this time I did get the correct opponent, who I did not prep against this time, and I did not remember any of the prep I did. Okay, so my opponent plays d4. I play knight e6. I've been playing this recently, this Nimzo Indian that on knight f3 transposes into a Benoni. But this time we do play a proper Nimzo Indian. And my opponent plays a3 immediately, which has a name. I'm not sure what the name is again. Can't remember. This is a specific variation that basically forces you to take immediately, and then it becomes quite an active game in theory for the opponent, while at the same time this pawn becomes extremely weak, and I'll eventually win it probably, but in the meantime the opponent gets a lot of counterplay. So I start immediately by stopping this pawn. I play c5 here. And yeah, the point is that these pawns are now stuck. If you take, which I think might actually even be playable, I play queen a5. Queen d4 is the only way to defend. And so the line, which didn't happen, would probably go something like this. If you want to hold on to the pawns, otherwise you're just definitely worse. But now, actually, do you have this? No, you just have. I think you do have this, because if you take, then I take and win the rook. Right? Yeah. Maybe it's even suboptimal. Let's. I guess it is suboptimal, just barely. But knight e4 is fun, and you just take on c3. Yeah, and now I'm definitely better. Okay. I don't think taking is accurate, so my opponent didn't do that. They actually pushed. Played d5. Which I looked at for quite a bit. It actually creates some issues for me. Well, not really, but I mean there are some things that I want to do that are difficult now. Usually what you do in these types of structures is play b3, bishop a6, and then the knight goes to e5 to win the pawn. To a5, sorry. But I can't go to c6. So there are some issues, and if I take, then that solves my opponent's entire position, and then I'm just worse. However, if my opponent takes, then I'll just take back, probably with the d pawn. Maybe actually here, maybe with the f pawn, and then maybe push d5 or something, or push d6 maybe. And then I can do this again, something like that, if my opponent takes. So I didn't see this as a big threat. I was looking, maybe you can play d6 at some point, but I don't. Maybe that's not good enough either. I think that just breaks the pawn structures too much as well. I think I'd just do this and that and something like that. Maybe I even win the pawn in some variation. But yeah. So c5 d5, and I just decided that there is no real plan for white to be really scary with d6, so I just castled and allowed it. And here my opponent plays f3, trying to play e4. And then this is scary. So my plan was to play d6. And here, if take, then I take with the bishop. And then, I don't know, we'll do this or something. And my plan was probably to take with the bishop at least. And if my opponent doesn't take, which they didn't, they played e4, I'd push. And now this is stuck. And this is permanently weak. And I kind of control the center. And basically I just have to try to survive some attack that's coming on the king side, and then I'll probably be winning. But that's easier said than done, of course. My opponent played bishop d3, which I don't think is optimal, but it's good enough. It's fine. I played knight b to d7, knight e2, and because my knight can't actually get to here, or I mean, it can't get to here, get to b6. It can get to b6, but then I can't get the bishop to a6. I decided instead to move the knight in this direction, sort of. Not actually to h5, but towards the king side. And the way I did that is to play rook e8 here, castle, and knight f8. It's going to g6. My opponent can always pin my knight, but I think I can usually just kick it and be fine there. Maybe. It depends on the position, of course. Yeah, and this pawn will always be weak, so it can wait. I'll eventually win it, probably. So yeah, it really doesn't matter to me. My opponent actually played queen c2 here. Played knight g6. Because so there's the point is that they want to play f4 and then crash with e5, I think. If I take, or actually the point was just to take back, probably with the bishop, and this is a second defense on e4, which was necessary. So this tries to set up f4. Now I'm kind of preventing it, because let's say bishop takes, then I play knight e5, and on knight takes as well. I play knight e5. Maybe actually on bishop takes I have to take the bishop. Unclear, but on knight takes I definitely just play knight e5. And then my knight is basically perfect, and then I can do this and wish you the best of luck. Yeah, so that's why I played knight g6, to try to prevent f4. And my opponent played, after a bit of think, played knight g3, which has an idea. They want to play knight f5, and I'm not sure I'd be happy to take that knight. I think it's probably bad to take. So I realized that here that the knight just goes to f5 and then I'm kind of stuck, but I still don't want to take. But my opponent also can't. I mean, they can do something, but yeah. So I decided to just ignore it and go play bishop b6, bishop a6. Knight f5 happened anyways, and here I took some time because this is really difficult position to find a good plan. And I think I came up with something good, and what I did is play knight f4. I'm not going to ever take. I'm just going to put my bishop here regardless. I'm threatening to take, because if I get to take and queen takes, then bishop a6 and the queen is permanently stuck, unless they want to sacrifice a pawn, of course. And if they take themselves, then I take back with the pawn, and this knight is kind of getting stuck. I'm at least threatening to win a pawn here, I think. Now you can go back to h4, and no, I am threatening to win a pawn here. Let's say do nothing, then I play g6. On knight h6 I go here, you have to go here, and then I take with the bishop. Right? Oh, you do get this pawn then. And this doesn't work because of g3. But maybe I go here. So it's... and I have e3 and I'm attacking rook, and I think this is fine. And on knight h4 I can take here, probably that one, not this one, and attack like that. And if you go, because if you go here, then I can go here in between. I think this is winning, right? Yeah, definitely. So that's the point. Which is why also my opponent didn't take. They kicked my knight. So now I basically was, because I'm in for a penny, now I have to be in for a pound. I just have to take the bishop, and queen takes, of course, and I play bishop a6, basically making the queen sad, because it can't really move without dropping this pawn. The only other way to defend, like you can run the king in some variations. The only other way to defend is knight e3, and then you get this stuck, and this can't continue towards the king side either. So yeah, you're kind of stuck there. You're always kind of stuck. I think this bishop is very potent at basically making it difficult for my opponent to play. Yeah. So, and my opponent agrees and couldn't find any good plan and played rook b1, which doesn't really do anything. But here, I actually talked about this when on my ride home. Here, this looks like a position where I could do absolutely nothing, because my opponent did a nothing move and probably just get a draw, or just ask my opponent to do something, because my opponent really can't do much either. I think bishop g5 is probably a fine move. That is actually kind of annoying. But if I just do nothing, then I mean, you can maybe push f4 after bishop g5. But then you might have some... No, you don't even have issues on e4. Maybe I'd have g6 and forcing knight a6 check and king g7. Maybe you get kind of stuck there. Oh, but you have knight g4 there. So yeah, actually, I think my opponent actually has something to do. Which is so. Yeah, I think I'm fairly certain I realized that my opponent had something to do. They just couldn't find it immediately. So I decided not to do absolutely nothing. My nothing move would have been rook c8, by the way. I did think of a nothing move. But yeah, in the end I decided to play g6, which is really, I think this is the key moment of the game. I think g6 is a really scary move to make. But if it works out, then I think I'm definitely better. And the scariest moves to consider are knight h6, king g7, and then just bishop g5 again, threatening knight g4. And my plan was to play queen d7 to meet knight g4 with knight g8, or knight takes g4 maybe. I think the plan was knight g8 actually, yeah, because otherwise the f-file opens up and you get bishop f6 or rook f6. There's no piece there or anything, but it's just annoying. And you get some play on f7. I think. So... yeah, you get some issues here. So even though this wins a pawn... Actually, it wins a pawn and attacks the bishop. So maybe you can't do that. But I always have the option of also just playing knight g8 there. And then f6 or something. I think this is probably fine. The other option that is kind of scary is just like queen e3, something like that. Allowing me to take, giving this check. And then like taking maybe. Maybe you can't take. And maybe you... maybe I should just have knight g8 or rook g8. Yeah, probably this is nothing for my opponent. Actually... no, I can just move my knight, and there's nothing. Yeah. Yeah, this is nothing, yeah. So it was g6 was actually a semi-bluff. I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to take the knight. And my opponent has two kind of scary options. And in the end my opponent actually did a third thing, which is knight h4. They played it quite quickly as well. And I did not think this was very scary. And I think I'm totally fine here. This was basically exactly what I was hoping for. I do want to prevent bishop h6 here, so I played king g7. Rook e1 happened here, which is kind of a nothing move as well. Maybe you should play f4 there, but then maybe knight to g4 or queen g4. No, wait, sorry, my queen is not on d7, it's on d8. Oh yeah, the point was f4 take. So f4 take. On pawn takes I can take... oh, I can just take the e-pawn and threaten this. Did not realize I could take the e-pawn. I was planning on taking the d-pawn again, but e-pawn is fine. And on f4 e takes, bishop takes. Oh yeah, then I did see this, I think. Maybe I was looking at no, I wasn't looking at h6. I think this is totally fine probably, except that I'm not sure I saw that I could take here. But if you can take here, then it's definitely good for black. Maybe that's kind of yeah, that's probably actually very scary. So I should take like that, and then I'm fine. So yeah, that's probably why they played rook e1 to defend this pawn and support an f4 push. So I played queen d7, which has two things going, actually three even. I'm kind of looking in this direction. I can go to h3 and maybe prevent some pawn pushes. Maybe sometimes to g4 after f4. Bishop g5 no longer pins my knight, so I can run away immediately, which I might not do, but I think I would. I think I would just run away immediately. And I also want to go here, because this pawn is basically unsavable. The only way to save it is if you were to play knight g2 immediately, and then play knight e3 on the next move. Or what you could do is what my opponent did, and just ignore that your pawn is under attack, right? Yeah, queen e3 happened, and threaten queen h6, which I immediately defended with knight g8. This was kind of the plan for the setup, at least. And I was assuming that I could hold this position for quite a while and just win this pawn and win the game slowly. But my opponent came with f4 here, which was kind of scary. I think if there was any moment to take the pawn on c4, it's now. But I was afraid of f5, I think. f5 looks scary. Yeah, f5 looks very scary. Yeah. Maybe I can close the position, but that's also kind of iffy. You get knight f3 and just sack, probably. Like after f5. Could maybe do this. That's very iffy though. In the end, I didn't even take the pawn, I just played f6. And my point was actually to prevent anything from going to g5 after this trade. And I took with the d pawn, which might not have been the best thing, but I definitely did not want to take with the rook. Because that allows a tempo here, and then e5, I think this is probably kind of scary. Maybe it is still totally fine. I don't know. But I played d takes, which also has a different idea. Oh yeah, my plan was originally to just do this and stand there and get my king to safety here. Which I think it's perfectly safe on d6 and there's not much you can do. So now I'm actually probably just threatening to take the pawn and my opponent defends. And actually I did not like this plan right now because my opponent gets g4, g5, which looks kind of scary. So what I did is I just went back, because there's really still not much that can defend this pawn. I can just go trade queens and then come back, which is exactly what happened. Rook f1, I played queen g4, my opponent took, and I took back, threatening bishop e2 actually, by the way. So my opponent plays rook f2, and now I could go back and here, and you can just barely defend it with this plan. I think if I do it right now, I can also get my knight here. No, I can't. The king just barely holds on, and you can just hold this, and then so then I'd have to go try to get f5 going. I'm definitely better here though, or at least it's a draw. But yeah, it's a little advantage. So yeah. I didn't actually do that though. I decided against it in the game. I played rook d8 first. Which just makes my play a turn slower, and you actually get into some issues after that. So bishop d2 happened. So I went bishop c8, knight g2, bishop a6, knight e3. And here I started my knight maneuver, and instead of running with the king, they actually played rook bf1, attacking my f-pawn. So that was annoying. This is a second attack on my pawn, and there are two ways to defend. I can play rook d6 or rook f8. And rook d6 goes against my plan of putting a knight on d6, of course. And maybe that's also scary. This is also scary again. It still is, regardless. Yeah. So in the end I played rook f8, which has a different issue. The issue is knight g4 attacking here, and it's threatening a skewer, winning an exchange. So it forces me to play knight g8. But then this pawn is hanging again, so you have to go back. So the game continues here. I think you can probably play rook f7 or something, and maybe you even need to play rook d7, rook dd7, and then only then try this reroute. Yeah, whatever. But my opponent did not play knight g4. I played rook f8. My opponent didn't play knight g4. They played a different plan, a4, which is, I think, just fast enough. Unfortunately. I tried to get rid of this threat so I could move my knight somewhere else other than g8. So I played rook f7, which also creates an issue. Namely that after this, this is no longer a threat, but this is now a threat. So I'd have to, because my rook is pinned, I'd have to play no, f5 doesn't even work. Is this just winning? Looks like it is. Yeah, I just have to sack my e-pawn. That's really bad, actually. Actually, that's maybe still playable. No, wait. It's really bad. Yeah, I blundered knight g4, which I also saw in the game. Fortunately, my opponent didn't play it. He played g4, trying to go g5, which I decided to stop. And now I also, doing that, I also stopped knight g4 permanently. So I played g5 here. This does allow knight f5, but in this case I can just take and win the c-pawn, and then probably very slowly win the game. Probably. But this also makes my f-pawn kind of weak. So I think it's fine. I think it's good enough. My opponent plays a5 here, which is also very annoying because they're just their counterplay is just too fast, which is really sad. And my rooks aren't really in position to do anything, and the rook is going to a1, and my bishop is going to hang at some point, and if I take, then this just wins at least one pawn back, and then my pawns are terrible. So what I did in the end is I played knight c8, which I think just barely works, with the point that if they take, I take with the knight, and then on rook a, so take, let's just put it in, and on rook a1 I take here with the bishop, and that's just, I think that's just barely good enough. And if they play this, which is the game variation, I played the same thing but worse, but I do get some activity back, so it's fine. I played knight d6 and take here with the bishop. There are so many pawns hanging now as well. This is hanging, and this is hanging. There's some issues like this that you all have to calculate. We're also getting down to like 5 minutes. I had a bit more. I had like 20. My opponent had like 5 here. Yeah, there are so many options here in this position. My opponent decided to take the pawn. Currently up a pawn for a bit, but I'm just going to win it. I think I'm forced to play rook a8 even. So now my opponent can choose which minor piece. I mean, they have other options of course, but they can always pick which minor piece they want to play against. I'm currently threatening this and winning this pawn, and winning this pawn. I'm currently down a pawn, so that's totally I'd only be up a pawn in the end, but still. I take here with the knight though, which is really annoying. I think this is taking the bishop is... Come on, I'm stupid. I'm clicking terribly today. I think this is still... I think this is good for me, this trade. Having a knight there in the end. Because the bishop on d2 is still garbage. And if we trade bishop for knight at some point, then I have a bit more activity, and maybe I'm actually worse there now I think about it, because of this connected passed pawn. Maybe you can just play, maybe you can take, rook e2, and threaten this. Yeah, maybe that's actually bad for me. No, I can get here first, before it's an issue, I think. No, wait. So take. Rook e2, no. This, bishop e2. Oh no, it is an issue. I mean, rook a4, or rook a2 maybe, or rook a3. No, I think I'm worse here. Maybe it's probably just a draw. Yeah. So yeah. Or they can trade knights and get to an opposite color bishop endgame. I think I am definitely forced to take the knight there. So that would go this, and something takes on f5. You have 3 options. Actually, you can't really take with that one, because I take the d pawn. I don't think you want to take with the g-pawn either, so... Play. This is actually the game, by the way. They did play knight f5. You don't have to do that, but... What are your other options? Or, I mean, you could take here, of course, but... Your other options are like this. If you don't want to trade minors. And this rook is still not doing much. So you still maybe have to take something and be worse. You can maybe do this. Actually, this might be good for me as well. Fascinating. But yeah, knight f5 happened. I took, because I'm forced to. And the rook took, which I did not expect, because the rook gets really very stuck here. But at the same time it puts a lot of pressure here on f6. After I took and traded, I can't actually play king f7 because I lose this pawn. So there's actually something going on there. Also, we're in the opposite color bishop endgame, but we're not, because we both have an extra rook, and that means that there are winning chances for either side. Yeah. And also, I'm threatening to just attack this pawn, and there's not much you can do to defend it. You could do this. Then I do this, threaten the pawn, and I win a pawn? Right? Am I missing something? I think I'm just winning a pawn here. But maybe this pawn is scary. So, yeah. So instead I played king f2. Yeah, we're already there. And here, at the end of the game, one of my teammates mentioned that I missed the correct move here, I think. I think they said rook a4 here. No, wait, no, it's on the next move. I played bishop d3, attacking this pawn, so you're forced to do one of these. And they played king f3, after which I do have rook a4. That's the point. That's absolutely, that's incredibly winning. My god. Yeah, I missed rook a4, because you're forced to go here, otherwise I'd just win in exchange as well. You have to run, let's say here, and then I win this pawn as well, and yeah, the game is just over here. I'm just up 2 pawns. Yeah, I missed rook a4. But you can also, if you just do this, then there's no real issue. Yeah. They played that king e3 after. I wrote king d3. I should go fix that. 2 seconds. They played king e3 on the next move, so it really, I don't think it matters that much. I just gain an extra tempo, which I'm using quite well though. Rook a1. Kind of threatening, like, here and here, and maybe even here. Nah, maybe not yet, because of king here, and I can't trade because that's a draw. Or I'm losing, that's also possible. Could easily lose that because of that pawn. But it's probably just a draw. So yeah, rook a1, king e3 happened here, and I played c4, which kind of blocks in my bishop. But I have permanent pressure here, and the king can't do much. I have permanent pressure on e4. Basically you have to do this with the king. The bishop can't move. His rook can't go to f1, so you have to basically play rook f2. There's no other move that does anything. d6 I just hunt down, and I think I get there even if I lose an extra move, which people weren't sure about. So they play rook f2, which makes sense, and I play rook g1, threatening this. But I'm not. I don't think I'm threatening it, but I am. What's it called? I think I'm still in time if they do this. Yeah, I am, because I get here, and then I just win the pawn, right? They do get out though, but pawn is pawn. Yeah. So technically, where were we? Here? Technically d6 does not work yet. Did play rook. No, sorry, I didn't play rook g1 yet. Was even a lot later. I played king f7 first because there's no bishop takes g5 trick. And I wanted to plant my king on e7 to prevent this pawn from running. And my opponent played h4, which I spent most of my remaining time on. I had like 12 minutes left, and after this move I had like 4. I decided in the end to actually straight up take the pawn. And after rook h2, let's actually look at options. I considered h6, but I thought I don't think you should move. I thought this was annoying. Maybe it's still good enough for me. I was not happy. The king can't actually move, so I can just do this if I want to. But I thought maybe this pawn was scary. Which is why I just took, and here, after rook g1, I'm not actually oh no, now I am threatening to take, I think. Because I can go that way. They took my pawn, and I played king g7 here. I wanted to defend this pawn, and I was really struggling to find which move I wanted to play. In the end I played king g7, which I think is suboptimal now that I thought about it. At least in the game I thought it was suboptimal. But yeah, here my opponent plays king f2, which I think, I mean, they have to make a move. They're in Zugzwang, kind of. d6 was claimed by someone else, an onlooker after the game, but they said that I was not in time, but I am. So this is winning for me, I think, or at least I'm doing quite well here. But what else do you do? This rook does not want to move. Oh, I think the rook can move. But maybe I can take here and sack this pawn, and then I can take here. I think if the rook moves, I can just take on g4. So let's say, where would you even go? Here maybe? I think this is totally fine. I do have to run with my king though, I think. Actually no, I have king h8. Because of rook g8. That's funny. And this is winning. This must be winning. This is a draw. Oh, you win the f-pawn. Yeah, that's really bad. That's really annoying. Okay, but there must be something else. I think this should be winning for me. We'll take a look at it afterwards. So you can't move anything else, I think. The only maybe you can play g5. Nah, I'd probably just take and win that quite handily. So yeah, no, it's... I think this is basically Zugzwang. I played rook f1 check, and a point. So you can go one of these three. I think this is probably the best move. But then I just go here and win this pawn with check, I think. No, wait, no, this is what I saw in saw and thought that it was that I gave away my advantage, because I don't have rook d1 because of this check. And now you can defend this pawn. But maybe I'll still win it actually. Maybe I just do this. No. I'd have to go here first. Yeah, because on this I have that and I win. Probably bishop takes on actually. Yeah, okay. It's apparently still good enough. But I just went to e3 anyways, making it my life a lot easier because of rook f4. And I just win this pawn, which is really funny actually. And on king g3, I would just take here anyways. So yeah. Here, was it here that so they thought that they could push? I think this was good enough for me, right? Yeah. No, I can hold this. Right? Because the point is, d6 you can't take it like that because then the pawn promotes. I mean, I can do this. That's good, right? Yeah. I could do this and get 2 pawns, but that's probably not good enough. I think maybe I miscalculated this. Thought, I know that you on this I saw that you can just win the bishop, and then I mean that doesn't even matter, but on these I can just move my bishop somewhere and that's good enough. King f3 though. What can I still try? Actually, I can do the same thing. Because I'm threatening a discovered attack, which might be good enough. But oh no, wait. Now you give this check. No, but then I can run. Wait a second. I can also just do this, but that was the unfortunate part. I didn't want to give up the pawn. But yeah, you can also do this because yeah, no, and where was it? Rook e2, bishop check here. King f7. That's the I found a variation again, because now the pawn doesn't hang. Actually, the pawn doesn't hang regardless. Wait. Oh, because I win I won this pawn, the pawn doesn't hang. Cool. Yeah, you can't do this because of. Doesn't matter. I think I do have to sack my bishop for the queen. So I do this. And then I'm up 2 pawns in the rook endgame, which is probably winning. Okay, just probably didn't blunder d6. Good. My opponent played this, after which I took the pawn with my bishop. And now it's a lot easier though, because I can just block the pawn with my bishop and there's not much play here. My opponent tried something funny. They played rook g2, probably seeing that I can just take it, but then the pawn promotes, except that I have rook f3 check here, and on I can just do this on king e2 and on king e4. There might even be a checkmate. I don't think there is, but you're getting really close. Rook d3, king f5. You just take the bishop, of course, as well, but I was hoping there was a checkmate. And king f2, you have the same thing, of course. Yeah, and my opponent resigned here, and I won this game. But it's on the increment we played a couple of, probably played a couple of suboptimal moves. So let's see. This is all fine. Yeah. Engine already likes black here, which I think is really funny. But I mean, it makes sense. I do know that the point is that you basically always win the c-pawn, c4. But white has a lot of compensation in terms of attacks against the king. So yeah. And apparently, what's the line here? Why is this bad? Oh yeah, I looked at this. And queen a5, and you just take this pawn, I guess. Sure. You also take the other one? I guess so. Yeah, okay, now you're just up a pawn, and that's good enough. d5 is not the most played move. Queen a5 still I looked at, but I decided against it. Yeah, bishop, I mean, just, I don't know, where do you want to go? Let's say this. Oh, that's funny. This wins pawn, kind of. Probably. That's actually really funny. Okay, it doesn't win a pawn in this variation, but you can probably win the d6 pawn before the opponent wins c4. Maybe. Maybe I should not have played knight e4. Yeah. I guess that's fine. I castled though. I think castling is also okay. f3. b5 I looked at for a little bit. I wasn't sure about it though. I mean, I just wasn't happy with this position. Maybe it's just, but I mean, it does give my bishop a bit more room. And you have this option as well. And okay, I can see that this is fine, because you probably just win this pawn or get a lot of pressure. I think you just probably win, right? Let's say this, that makes sense. Maybe you don't play for winning the pawn, but just have a strong center, I don't know. d6 makes sense, e4 and e5 probably is terrible. Okay, sure. I'm surprised that this is really bad for me. Maybe it... Okay, I do remember, because it's... I at some point realized that I just didn't have any play. And my opponent still has some, so it's fine. Fine for my opponent. Maybe 7... He does like my maneuver, I think. Not sure how much you heard of this. I know that you actually hear quite a bit, despite me muting my microphone. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, currently we're still doing okay. Knight to 4 is an option, but I decided to delay it by a move, making it a bit worse, but still good enough. Knight e3. Okay, that's also interesting. Yeah, okay, now I'm apparently a lot better. Ooh, take the knight. I thought about it for a bit, but I did not like it. What's the point? e4? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, fair enough. This is probably quite decent. Because I've got a lot of activity here. Same issue. Can always stay there. But that's... Okay, I missed that. I'm not sure why I missed that. Because I think I saw that I could play e4 here after I take. I'm not sure why I didn't think that was good. But yeah, okay. Yeah, g6 is like... If you want to play something... If you want to play for a win, you play g6. If you want to play for a draw, you just play bishop c8 or something. Yep. Knight h6 is apparently very good. That makes sense. Knight h6 and g4. Or and f4, I mean. Because I don't want to take the knight because of discover checks winning my knight back. Yeah, that's probably... Yeah, fair enough. Okay, now it's solved again, so it's okay. Now I'm doing quite well again. Now I'm better. You can take the pawn on c4. It looked a bit too scary, but knight g8 is correct, so it's good enough. Now f5. Or e takes f4 as well. Wasn't happy with taking the pawn. Yeah, pawn takes... Oh wait, this was a thing I looked at as well. Just taking this. But I thought I'd give too much counterplay away. Yeah, so f6. Allowing f5, but then I played g5, and I think... maybe that's also really scary. I thought I could hold on there. And apparently Engine kind of agrees, but kind of only. But this is bad. Rook takes still terrible. Okay. So many winning chances. Okay, apparently is totally fine for me. Yeah. But they, yeah, give me another chance, and I don't take it. This is fine though. This is good. Yeah. That was a bit too slow. I should just run back. a4 was good. This is terrible because of because knight g4, of course. This also bad, apparently. Here knight f5, yeah, that seems okay. Knight d6, yeah. I gave it away a little bit, which makes sense. I should have probably been able to win the pawn on c4 at some point in the game, but I just never did. Yeah, it wasn't... I thought that this was good for me, and taking the bishop was probably still also good for me, actually. But yeah, rook takes, of course, take the pawn, trade. Yeah, there's that option. You can always take actually 3 pawns for the bishop. Because you take here with check, and this doesn't work because you give another check and win that pawn. Yeah, this is probably a draw. But yeah, same issue. Missed rook a4. Yeah, and now you got Zugzwanged, kind of. Good attempt. You have to play h6 or g takes h4. That makes sense, though. Apparently, yeah, okay, both are fine. Rook g1, of course. Rook g2. That's funny. Oh yeah, that. No, I don't get it. No, I do get it. It forces a bishop move. And only... Okay, sure. Makes the bishop a bit worse. Okay, and apparently d6 is a draw here. King of 2 is as well. What if you go here? Is this still a draw? Yeah, I saw that you'll always have this. And you maybe you can take, but that's... You really want to play this. If you really want to play this, you can. But yeah. d6 is the only way to hold even. d7, king e7, take with check. Yeah. I can see that you can hold this. Oh, my rook is hanging. That's probably why. Ah, that's interesting. My rook is trapped. Yeah. But yeah. If you don't find d6, then apparently you're just losing, so that's good enough. Try that. You can't sack the rook because I just barely can hold on. Yeah. Okay. Apparently it was kind of a sloppy game. Had a lot more chances than I actually managed to take. And my opponent actually also had a couple of chances. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a win is a win. This is good enough. It's been an hour? Crazy. Yeah, it's a long game. Makes sense that it's an hour. Yeah. I did definitely feel like I played a lot better than I have been playing. Which is something. I'm quite happy with this game, despite it being kind of sloppy in places. Like, yeah, just this. I'm playing too slow here, and g6 is apparently bad, but I think g6 is If you want to play for a win, you have to do that. And playing too slow here again, and getting tricked as well. No, it's fine. Whatever, I did win. So, yeah. The next one I can look up. Gonna be a while. Let's see, if I do this, can you see what I see? No, that's good. I don't want to dox myself, so that's good. Next final round in this competition. That's interesting. Different result is end of April, so it's going to be in a month. And last round in this competition is going to be... There is no last game for this competition, so there's only one game left in a month. So I'll see you in a month, I guess. Maybe I'll do something else before that, but we'll see. Probably I will do something. I've got some time. See you there.